Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, viewer news and headlines. Why we love them so. Coming at you right now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show, and I'm going to get right to it with viewer mail. And this one is from Christine of Pensacola, Florida. Says, "Hi Daniel, my husband and I watch your show. We love it. What do you think this year will include under Trump? Any surprises?" Well, thank you, Christine, and your husband for watching the show. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. I think the biggest surprise in 2026 will be the follow-through, the follow-up, the finishing. I think a lot of presidents and people that run promise they're coming out the gate going to do certain things and blah, blah. And whether you like Trump or not, in his first presidency, and certainly in his second term now, he has come out with astronomical speed. I mean, he literally attacked the border, shored that up quickly. He has taken on many of the promises, many of the campaign promises that he made. He has run with the ball. This is that chance you get when the quarterback gets hurt and you get your turn to go in there for your first couple of sets of downs, and you score every time you go. He's certainly been criticized for a lot of things he's done, but he has absolutely done what he said, or has attempted to get done what he said right away, which I admire. Now, the follow-up this year, Christine, a little bit of coffee. It's 4:00 in the morning here. The follow-up to me will be prosecuting certain people that they have proved and that they have turned over documentation to the federal government and law enforcement agencies that absolutely implicate certain characters that we've grown to know and care about and love, some of us, and trust and so on. And it looks like they've had their hand in the basket, or they misappropriated certain governmental authorities to do things, and legislation has been passed and blah, 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 for personal gain. So I think the difference is usually that's handed off and threatened, and then nothing happens of it. I think you're going to see either people have to make concessions that either they're going to do a Nixon thing. They didn't know that this was going on underneath them, that someone would go into the Watergate Hotel, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to see follow-up. We're going to see some heads roll for sure. There's going to have to be, from the left, some sacrificial lambs. I think the system, they're all kind of involved in a lot of it, making deals. Certainly Trump is the deal master, so he's going to want to have his hand in it somehow, and he's going to insist on certain things happening for the overall good. When I say that, let's just say, for example, the administration was willing to overlook certain charges in exchange for something that betters the country. I believe that he looks for opportunities to better the country, and they're playing chess. Anyone that's in that, now it depends on what your goal in the chess game is. Is your goal a stalemate? Is your goal to apply pressure to get things that you want? Trump isn't a take pawns guy. He's a guy that wants the king. He wants to take you out and win the game. So with that said, look at Venezuela. A lot of people are looking at all the obvious things. They want to send our boys over there. They want oil. They want to take those tankers. The reason why they're taking the tankers is so he can get rich with his friends, and all this total bullshit that they say that Trump and the administration are up to. But does capturing that oil and stop it from being traded to China and Russia put a kink in the negotiating powers for Russia when it comes to the Ukrainian war? Does it change some things with China and add who buys a vast majority of Venezuelan oil? So again, these are bargaining chips. It may not be the obvious thing that you think it is. It may be something else, because again, there's a chessboard going on here. So I think in order to see through the things that have started in year one, the surprising thing, Christine, will be when he starts pulling checkmate or threatening kings on the board. When he starts moving those chess pieces in such a way that he's cornering someone and the inevitable end is coming, they're going to be willing to make deals, and some of them are going to fall. They're absolutely just going to go down. So look for the chess player to start calling checkmate pretty soon. So I wanted to do the show because the why is so much more important to me. Who, what, where, when, and how are all things. Who is the person? What is what they did? They shot a gun. Where is the place they did it? When is the date and the time? And the how again is they snuck in, blah, blah, and then they pulled the trigger. But the why isn't that really the most fascinating? What's the reason why? It's why our judicial system is the way it is. A guy that steals a loaf of bread because he wants to feed his 3 kids versus a guy that steals a loaf of bread because he wants to sell the loaf of bread to buy crack cocaine. Those are 2 very different crimes. And based on their record, and even though they're the same crime, they may be sentenced very differently, even though they're both found guilty. So why is pretty important. Look at the headlines that we read, particularly the headlines. So I just went on Google search. I wrote Fox News, and I hit send, like I want to see. Fox News headline today. Iran plans execution of protester as Trump weighs bombing over demonstration crackdown. That's Fox News. NBC News. DOJ probe into Jerome Powell and Federal Reserve began late last year, sources say. Very threatening. DOJ investigation. The Washington Post. U.S. plane used in boat strike was made to look like civilian aircraft. Boat strike, death, covert. Looked like a regular plane. Could hide the death from above. This is MS Now. Top DOJ official quit after the division refused to probe Minnesota ICE shooting. ICE, big letters, shooting, big letters. More, death and, dissension. This is USA Today. Federal invasion. Minnesota, Illinois sue for over ICE deployments. Again, they're going to sue. They're going to take you to court. They're going to shut you down because ICE, and they're being deployed in your city. So very diverse, I didn't add CNN in there, but same team, different shirts. So we're going to catch your attention. We want that thing, because I look up a lot of stuff and I use my phone and I'm traveling, coming home, and I want to have a show ready. So what's in the news? And I look what's in the news. Although I keep up on it almost daily because I get certain notifications. So because of the types of things and the algorithms that they have, they throw things at me they think I'm going to want to see. And what catches your attention? It doesn't catch your attention that a young kid, saved, a young African-American boy or 2 boys were in the news months ago for running into a fire and saving people. Well, I guess that doesn't sell. Good news about a youth that put his life on the line and so on. And the fact that he was black, that just, we can only write terrible things about black people in the news. That keeps your attention. That's the script that they run by. We can't talk about positive things in the news, not as a headline, because is that going to make you click? Are you going to click on that story when you read that headline if it's not something that is terrible? So, let me read this to you. News headlines are often negative due to the... Hang on a second. The light is killing my eyes today. So, I don't want to change my lighting too much. Maybe we can cut into this when I go. Hang on a second. Watch this. News headlines are often negative due to our inner... I can't read that right now. Sorry, Has. Okay, check this out. News headlines are often negative due to our innate negativity bias, a survival trait making us focus on threats, combined with the media's attention economy, where alarming stories drive more clicks. They drive more shares, they drive more revenue, creating a cycle of sensationalism that can harm mental health, but captures attention better than positive views. Now think about that for a second. So they know that what you put out there, if it's sensationalized, if it's negative, if it's scary, there's actually a psychological study that shows that watching those types of things makes the person whose life is not so great, or the average person, seem like, wow, my life's pretty good compared to that. Look at those people. They're carrying their babies and rockets are blowing off in their city and blah, 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 or, it's a way to keep us suppressed. But the part that bothers me is that just in an AI search, it identifies that they intentionally sensationalize it, that they intentionally make us, target us for these types of stories where, when I look at the types of things that come up on my feed, I had a friend of mine say recently, why do I get all this stuff on my feed? And I said, because you click on it. That's why. That's a fact. And with my wife, she and I will be talking literally within 10 minutes. She'll go, can you believe this? And she'll hold her phone up and it'll say something about Jamaica or the Bahamas. And, it'll be exactly what we were talking about in the car without using the phone at all or searching anything. Like it's listening to us. And it is listening to catchphrases and words that we say, but certainly things that you click on that you find of interest. So for me, I get a lot of like animal stories. I get things about cars. I get things about politics, the economy, things that I talk about on the show, the president, the administration, those types of things, and all kinds of controversial stuff. I mean, the stuff that comes up in some of my feeds is the worst, ratchety crap that you can say about. I constantly get notified on the anti-Trump thing. I mean, and some of it, there's legitimate concerns if you don't, particularly if your ideology is different than the average Republican. People say things, is this what you voted for? Is this what? Well, yes, in fact, most of it is exactly what I voted for. I went by the things that he said he was going to change. Do I think, for instance, ICE in Minnesota was a good thing? Well, the initial headlines, first of all, anyone dying by law enforcement, if some kid gets shot stealing something from a store, I feel terrible for him for losing his life. I feel bad for his family. I feel bad for, a lot of people involved. I feel bad for the person that shot him if it was in self-defense or due to being robbed, whatever it was. I feel bad when there's any kind of death involved. So please know that what happened to this woman, I feel terrible about. But now if you look at the stuff that's coming out, now if you look at the fact that she was in a class where she dropped her kids off in an organization, supposedly, I haven't gotten total confirmation on this, but it sounds like it's going to turn out to be real. She was introduced to this anti-ICE thing through a support group that she dropped her kids off with. So when that girl left and she's been following ICE around in different cities for a while, her and her partner, do you think that she thought she might lose her life? Do you think that anyone that was telling her, yell this catchphrase, get in the way, put your phone in their face, tell them they're killers, tell them they're this, tell them they're patriotic slogans that, contradict what they're doing? And do you think anyone warned them of that? Do you think that were they getting paid? I think you're going to find that they were being paid. They were being compensated something for being in these different locations, that there's an organization or something that was writing a check to them. And that's very sad, because of course the first things were the ICE agent should be arrested. The ICE agent. Let me tell you something. And I've had this conversation with people pretty close to me. If they pull you over and they say, step out of the car, please. At very best, if you're suspicious about whether or not it's really a cop or whatever, you might say something like, I'm going to keep my hands on the steering wheel until you bring a supervisor out, please. I don't feel safe. I want you to see my hands. I would turn a recording device on and put it on right on my windshield. But there's ways you could do it. But listen to the bottom line. When they say get out of the car and they got their hands on your doorknob, get out of the car. Get out of the car. You don't want to give them any reason to misunderstand your actions. You don't want to add any charges on. No, I do not believe, of course, is there going to be an example of some backwoods cop that went wrong or shot somebody under suspicious conditions or wrongful conditions? Yes, unfortunately that happens. On average, 99.9999999 times there's body cam footage and there's footage from the car. Put your hands on the hood, put your hands behind your back, do exactly what you're told. If you don't have something in your car or you didn't do something wrong and there's no reason for you to be fearful, then there's a very good chance that you're not going to be arrested. You might be just detained. Or don't be a wise ass. Don't say a lot. Don't say anything. Just comply. That would be my advice in almost every arrest I've ever seen that's gone awry. Again, has there ever been a cop that is that? No, there's been lots of. There's been racial issues. There have been all kinds of. I've been pulled over and had, from the, hey man, what's going on? I love your show. To step out of the car for a minute, Hollywood. Please keep your hands where I can see them. I look at the guy. Did you just call me Hollywood? So I'm now being framed for what I do for a living that he obviously is not a fan of, or he's got some opinion of me because I'm in Alabama or whatever the hell I was. And So, and again, I'm not picking on law enforcement in Alabama. I'm just saying for this one cop, but that's my point. The odds of you running into one cop that's not going to do anything by the way they were trained and by the book are 1 in a million. So just do what you're told. And this woman, had she just done what she was told, if she didn't put it reverse and then pop it into drive and hit the gas, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. We wouldn't. But more importantly was the headlines when it happened. Man, if we weren't painted even with video evidence to think that this cop just shot her because he didn't like her, or shot her because she was a woman, or shot her because he thought she was gay, or shot her because, whatever you want to put together, that's not what happened. She put the car in drive and started to drive, and the car butted this man at his chest and his hand, and she was shot and killed. Now, could there have been other avenues used? Could there have been other ways? Could we have let her go and pulled her over later? Again, we can say all those things, but when you're in the moment and your weapon is drawn and you're boxed in and you're on high alert, remember, these cops are on high alert. So they're on high alert in the moment that it happens. And then the car lunges forward, he puts his hand up and boom, boom, and it was that quick. So I think you're going to find that he's going to be found justified in the shooting. I think that she, whether intentional or not, used the car as a 3,000-pound projectile, and it cost her life. So that's very sad. But that's, again, not what the show is about. The show is about, without any investigation, like a race to who had to get the headline out there. There was murder at the high seas, man. It was a reckless homicide. If you listen to the left and the politicians on the left, and now evidence is coming out where, well, maybe she was there trying to create trouble. Maybe she's been doing this for quite some time. Maybe her and her partner were dropping the kids off to a place where they were being kind of corralled to get involved in this organization. Maybe they were targeted themselves to go out there and cause trouble and get in over their head. These are not trained Contras. These are not people with a military or police background to know what to do in a high risk threshold situation. No, they weren't. They were just two chicks trying to make a little money, causing some trouble, and make a little dough to come home to the family, it sounds like to me. Or maybe there's more to it than that too. So I'm not going to claim I know it's fact. But I will say this, the headlines were so desperately different. Okay, so when I asked my computer and my phone about negative news and positive news, it said, most uplifting things happening globally right now include a major shift to renewable energy with its surprising coal for the time, in electricity generation, significant progress in ocean protection with the new High Seas Treaty, major advances in medical treatments like new cancer drugs and gene therapies. And so it goes on and on and on to say that if we wanted things to report about that are really amazing, science, what we're learning about the ocean floor, what we're learning, instead, it's chemtrails and not are they doing anything? This is what's so crazy about it. Not are chemtrails, do they exist, and the science of chemtrails, and are they trying to make us sick? And are they trying to, do certain things to us to manage us health-wise so more of us need to be treated for things? They've kind of accepted that already. They're kind of saying, yes, that's what happened. That's what's going on. Now, let's look at the overall effect of chemtrails and how we're battling the things that chemtrails create. Not let's talk about why there are chemtrails, and if we accept and know that they're there, why are we not doing anything about it? Why would we not eliminate chemtrails, investigate that? When you go up and see a plane with giant chemtrails, why don't we follow that with another plane and see where it lands, or check the number on the plane or whatever, or contact the plane, have it land and inspect the inside of the plane? Why don't we put at 20 airports the chemtrails inspection police? We have TSA, we have the FBI, we have drug enforcement, we have, the FDA, we have all these different AAAA, associations or agencies. Wouldn't that be easy enough to do at 10, 20 airports to figure out where are these planes coming from? The ones that leave the big streaks behind them that are supposedly a plane with no one on it generating all this crap that makes us sick. Wouldn't that make a lot of sense to do? Doesn't that make a lot of sense to do? We don't do that. We don't do that. We write about things that are even worse outside of our country, or even worse, natural disaster-wise. Natural disasters always make the news nationally. a hurricane with even small magnitude that has a limited effect on the not that losing a single life is terrible, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. And so it's disaster, death, mistrust, illegalities, all the stuff that constantly make the headlines, which is why I stopped watching the news. I don't listen to the news. I'll read up on it on my phone and catch up. I'll not watch a lot of videos. I don't watch a lot of videos. I've used my phone a lot less now because, again, there's another thing where I kept getting popped with stuff to remind me how bad it is to be on your phone, and warnings about how much the sound, the volume when I'm listening to music at the gym, or whatever it might be. Again, I'm being inundated with things that are sensationalized and wrong. So it makes me wonder too, and I want to end on this part of the show. It makes me wonder how much of it's true. So I see the chemtrails. See, I can look up and see the jets going by, and I said to my wife the other day, I go, look how many chemtrails are in the sky today. Like way more. So is there a day that they do it, a week? They just powder us with this crap that gives us cancer? Might be. It's possible. I could figure out how to do it. I'll just go up there and, follow a couple of planes in a jet and just say him, and him. Let's find out where they're from, photograph the side of the jet, and go inside. When the plane lands, have guys waiting. They're landing at, Atlanta International. There they are. Let's go take a look at that plane. Hey, who do you work for? So again, are we going to find out that it's some big government agency that's allowing it to happen because a certain amount of drug and chemical companies need to make their cancer medicines and continue us on this, little parade that we're on? I don't know. That part I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect it's something like that. What I find most interesting is, first of all, the headlines, how they're all. If I go through my phone right now and flip my phone through, every notification I'm going to get is going to be something about Iran, and Iran is threatening death and destruction to the U.S., and Venezuela's new president is coming to visit, but if she doesn't play ball, and what is China and Russia going to do about the fact that we're intercepting their tankers, and blah, 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 blah. Death and destruction, most of it. Or, here comes the reason why we have to send. We're not sending troops into Venezuela. Colombia is getting upset with us. Colombia is our big threat now, that they're going to back up sister Venezuela next door, and they are. We're not landing there and putting troops in there. We would strategically bomb a threat, and they would beg for our forgiveness in a very, very short amount of time. Now, is that right? If they do something provocative against us, if we can prove, and I think we can, that our intelligence suggests that they're smuggling drugs, which is funding different things, particularly in China, the illegal use of methamphetamines and where they're produced and so on. Sounds like a large portion of them are coming from China. Cocaine is taken from Colombia through Venezuela and being shipped, and that's where we're blowing up boats. And there's a lot more than just oil on those boats. You think we're just taking tankers because we're taking the oil? No, there's a lot of other strategic chess going on in that match. And we'll prevail in it. I don't think we're going to be bombing, being involved with troops on the ground in Colombia or Venezuela. I don't think that's going to happen. And I certainly think going to the bargaining table, knowing that we're going to control the flow of oil coming out of Venezuela, is going to change certain negotiations that are going on with Russia and negotiations that are going on with China, ongoing negotiations. So again, if we have a lot of business in Taiwan and in the North Korean peninsula and South Korea, you may see pressure from China and other friends of China's on us to interrupt certain things that give us tariffs. They'll play the same game. It's a game. It's literally a chess game. If I take this piece and move over here, I get that piece, but I surrender it because he's going to move and take it. But does that open up a hole over here? I mean, again, it's all strategy, baiting and switching. It's quite fascinating. The biggest thing for me, and I just came up with this idea to the show this morning, was looking at the headlines. I mean, God, it's so heavy all the time. It's just it's like a perpetual bombing raid. It reminds me of the videos and the news I watched in the 70s of the end of the Vietnam War, when they would do a bombing campaign on Saigon or wherever they were letting the bombs go. And it would just be, bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb in the middle of the jungle, trying to get to this terrible enemy, the Viet Cong. And, and I was a kid, and I'm watching all this going, wow, That's a lot of bombs being dropped over there. How can those people survive that? But it made you feel like we were winning. It made you feel positive about America. It made you feel like it was just because we weren't going to let this country mess with. Do you know that North Vietnam is about the size of Georgia? Not even. But we were in this war with this little country, and it was a close one. So anyway, spend a couple of days. I'm going to try to do this. Looking and clicking on things that are positive stories. Spend a couple of days getting out of the mud. And the mud is dirty and it's murky. And it feels like after I'm on my phone and I check, or I'm on my computer and I check what's going on in the world, it feels like I need a shower. It does. I feel like, sometimes I feel like, what am I doing? My life is so full of all this shit. And I have to spend so much time in the dirt, reading up on it, trying to understand it, checking, facts and talking to people that are in and around it for a living, and I think to myself, what an ugly place to be all the time. I mean, it's just crappy to be here. So, spend some time, in a good place today. Maybe use your phone a little less, maybe reach out to some people that you care about, or click a like or something on a story that's very unrelated to what you normally listen to. If your life is like mine, then you get a lot of this clickbait that's about just crappy stuff that's going on. And sometimes I woke up this morning and felt so heavy, like a paste. It wasn't even just dirty where you shower it right off. It was a paste that you had to peel off you. It was just, I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk a lot about the president, or talk a lot about Minnesota, or talk about stuff that's very topical, because I'm reporting on what's going on. I'm talking about stuff that I can find out information about, whether it's true or whether it's BS or what it is. And it's ugly all the time, man. It's ugly all the time. What about the great story about the teacher that is retiring and is helping his kids from any that? You know what? I'm going to do the next show on, I'm going to base the show at least, or the viewer mail on something that's really positive. So if you send me something, whatever you do, if you can, please like the show. Please like the show and subscribe to the show. Because as I increase in subscribers, I'm able to do more things and bring us more information, and even guests possibly. And I've been saying that for a while, but I haven't had a very large increase in subscriptions. So if you can share the show and like the show and subscribe, that's a great helper. And then I will take some viewer mail that suggests maybe I look at a story. So if you want to send me something that a story that you want me to tell, I'd love to do that. I'd love to say, this is from so-and-so who after the show last week said blank, and here's the lead in, and talk about this person, this principal, this mayor, this whatever it is. Tell me something positive, and I'll report on it. So with that said, Lord God, we thank you for your protection. We thank you for your guidance, Lord. We love you, Jesus. We act in your name, Jesus. We love you so much. And we ask you today to help the news become more positive, Lord. Help these people that report on the news. Can we find some positive, good things, some feel-good things to report on, and turn this trend around where it's just always the garbage and the filth of the world that makes the attention, that grabs the click, if you will, Lord. So we ask you, God, to protect us all. We love you. We praise you. In your name we pray. Amen. So there it is. There's our prayer for the day too. I really do, when I say I'm 65 years old now, and I just want everyone to have peace. I want everyone to have happiness. I want to advance. I want to find cures for cancer, and I want to help people that are impoverished, and I want to set up some scholarship funds, and I want to do things that have a positive effect. And I want to tell the truth. I want to report to you the truth, the real truth, not the agenda-driven crap. So with that said, I will say goodbye to you, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you.